Good evening, everyone. It's Hanifa Menon from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about what many people have heard about is this thought-free state. And many people will recognize this idea as something that's very common to meditation or even mindfulness, where we're watching our thoughts. And then this thought-free state is very much in meditation. And do you know that we can actually live this meditation regularly? And we think, oh boy, how could we live without thoughts? And we can't. In this world, we definitely need thoughts for some times and some purposes, but not all the time and not all purposes. And oftentimes, it's thoughts that get in the way of allowing us to reach a higher space. And I thought I would share a few quotes with you today to just elaborate on this just a little bit. And the first one is by Ramana Maharshi. And it says, if one wants to abide in the thought free state, a struggle is inevitable. One must fight one's way through before regaining one's original primal state. If one succeeds in the fight and reaches the goal, the enemy, namely the thoughts, will all subside in the higher self and disappear entirely. Now, isn't this interesting? We need thoughts. So we don't normally think of thoughts as the enemy, yet because they get in the way of abiding in the self. And you know, that term itself has been used by various religions from Christianity and um, Hinduism, in Buddhism, all sorts of different traditions actually talk about this term abiding in the higher self. And this self, a lot of people just see the words abiding in self and confuse it with myself as in this human form. And this human form is the body, mind, the thoughts, the emotions, the experiences, all of that is what this lower self or human self, I'll call it, is. And if we're abiding in that, then we're taking care of the day to day necessities. And when we're abiding in the higher self, we're allowing something to flow through us. And many of us forget this. And this is part of the journey of life, I believe. And I'd say a lot of these traditions believe the same thing, that we do develop what we'll call the ego. And this ego then is what we associate with our body and our mind and our thoughts and experiences and our knowledge and all sorts of things that are not really the higher self space. So that higher self space is more spiritual or is spiritual. Now, spiritual energy comes through all of these areas too. So it helps us do our body functions, our physical desires, our eating, our digesting, our action in life, our speaking, all of that is part of the body. Our thinking and our thoughts are part of the mind. And again, we need a spiritual energy that also helps all of these. And then there's something about going beyond all of that and just abiding in that higher self. And again, a lot of people start experiencing this, and I know I have, by focusing on meditation more. And there is work to be done. So when people hear something like a struggle is inevitable in doing this, it doesn't sound too exciting. And it doesn't sound too exciting to what? To the mind. The mind thinks, oh, a struggle. I couldn't imagine going through a struggle. I've got enough struggle in my day to day. I don't want to do something else that will bring a struggle. And really, this struggle is this mind thinking this way. And it's not a space of the mind. So it's that space of no thought. And then I wanted to make sure that you know that, again, like I said, that different traditions actually speak about this quite regularly. And if you know of the Upanishads definitely focus on these sorts of concepts. And I came across just what the word Upanishads means. And other than sitting at the feet of a guru, a teacher, it also had this wonderful quotation that I came across. And it says that its secret name, Upanishad, is Satyasa Satyam, which means the truth of truth. The truth of truth. And this truth of truth sounds so simple, doesn't it? Yet it's deep. It's deep. This whole idea of this space being beyond the mind, where we're trying to get to, or many of us are. And there is this unconscious pull towards this truth of truth. And when we read things or understand things or really try to abide in these things, we do actually experience life differently. And this experience is what I was talking with a dear friend today about too. It's again getting beyond this body, this mind. We require some understanding for this, but we also need some faith. And that faith, a lot of people say, oh, I wish I had more faith. I see my friends that have faith, but I don't have faith. And faith is something that can be cultivated. It's not because you read the right things, it's not because you do the right things. It's all of it combined. This faith naturally arises. And I found this beautiful quotation, which I thought was fantastic to end this video on, because again, abiding in the higher self does benefit from faith. And this faith, again, when people make that the goal of, I've got to increase my faith, that then goes back to mind thinking, right? So I'm thinking about, I've got to get there, but I'm here. I'm not a very faith oriented person. So I don't believe in anything. So I'll never get there. But if we are thinking clearly, if we are resting or abiding in the awareness that there's something beyond this mind and body that is helping through this mind and body, and it's helping through yours and it's helping through mine. And one of the most important things I believe in this is to also remember that it's the same for all. That space, that spiritual space is the same for all. So we can call this higher consciousness. We can call this about something hmm, in terms of pure consciousness. This is something beyond my consciousness. It's not mine or yours, just like it's not my God or your God. It's the same idea. It's not my universe. It's not your universe. It is the universe. It is God. It is faith. And so I thought I would finish this quotation. And again, the reason I also mentioned that whole idea of it's the same for all of us is so that we give each other the blessing and the awareness that this divine energy flows through each of us. And unless I can see that perfection in you, you won't see that perfection in yourself either. And this is something that we can do for each other. And yet, what does the ego like to do? It likes to make the differences. You're different than me because you're a different profession, you live in a different area, you speak a different language, you're in a different country. And this ego space is very much about this is better or this is not as good. So you're over there and that's not as good as over here is part of that ego space. You're this profession. I don't really value that profession, and I'm this profession. So I don't really value you as much as I value myself. And again, this form and function, this location, this all of these sorts of differences that we can look at is not the higher self, is not that understanding of oneness, and is not the space of faith. And this is really useful and I think very important for us all to remember because I do not believe that any faith wanted to show differences. It wanted to show the similarities of us all. And so I thought I'd finish with this quotation. And I hope for 5 minutes after this video, you will think about the sameness of us all. And most people, the reason they will say, no, it's not the same for us all because there are some people who are really awful and I'm not really awful. Well, guess what? You could be if you chose to be. Or if you went through the exact same experiences that another person has been through, whether through genetics, whether through lifetime experience, whether through anything that's happened in their lives, you would likely be exactly who they are. And this is a very humbling experience and awareness to get to. So this quotation is by John Calvin. And it says, faith does not proceed from ourselves, but is the fruit of spiritual regeneration. Faith does not proceed from ourselves, but is the fruit of spiritual regeneration. Do you understand that? Spiritual regeneration. When I have an intention to regenerate myself from my deepest space, from my something I do not understand, something that I'm humble enough to recognize is beyond what this mind could fully understand because it's beyond the mind. So, in that, when I am fully ready to embrace this, then we get the spiritual regeneration. And the spiritual regeneration, again, if we were looking at it in terms of Sanskrit terminology, there are some things called the Mahavakyas, which are these specific terms. And this specific term I know I've talked about in previous videos too. It's called Tatvamasi, which is that is thou. That being the highest self is who you are. That is who you are. That is who I am. That is who everyone is. How much of that we really tap into and really understand and really experience and really live depends on our level of spiritual regeneration. So today I wish that for you. I hope that you will sit and think for 5 minutes or reflect for 5 minutes to see, are you doing things that can help you spiritually regenerate? If you need any help, you know how to find me. And I hope you remember that you've got everything that you need. You just need to be reminded and guided as to the way to get back to it. And I'm here to help if you need me. If you have any questions, I'll put my link at the bottom of this video on YouTube. And I wish you a fantastic evening ahead or a daytime ahead, wherever you are. And I hope you remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great day or night, everyone.